Security Council has passed a resolution to increase humanitarian aid into Gaza Strip. However, the resolution has skipped on suspension of hostilities language. Meanwhile, the Israeli military has called on the international community to pile pressure on Hamas for unconditional release of hostages. Good morning, I'm Sarah Sapsanamma. Let's begin with the headlines of the hour. Prime Minister Dahal prepares to reshuffle the cabinet, expressing dissatisfaction towards work execution of ministers. Analysts call it an effort to sustain the ruling alliance instead. Community schools brace information technology in teaching and learning. Stakeholders say it has raised students' motivation. UN Security Council passes resolution for immediate acceleration of aid deliveries to Gaza, but without the original call for urgent suspension of hostilities between Israel and Hamas. And Manchester City capped 2023 with 5th trophy of the year, thrashing Brazilian side Fluminense 4-0 in the FIFA Club World Cup final. Prime Minister Pushpa Kamal Dahal, who has been expressing dissatisfaction towards the work execution of ministers and secretaries, is all poised to reshuffle the cabinet. The Prime Minister, looking back at the first year of his government, has himself admitted of having failed to make the public happy and has given commitment to adopt a new strategy in the second year. Meanwhile, ministers are yet to admit to the shortcomings. Amid all this development, there are speculations that the Premier is trying to shuffle the cabinet for distribution of power and to appoint his close aides to ministerial positions instead. During his appointment to the executive post last December, Prime Minister Dahal had expressed commitment to work in a new manner and fulfill the public's expectations. However, no substantial results were achieved, and the Premier has been blaming ministers and secretaries behind the failure. The Premier, during a program in Morang yesterday, announced of reshuffling the cabinet, saying that the ministers and secretaries had failed to deliver despite his directives. Meanwhile, political analysts say the government's attempt at good governance had made a few small changes. For instance, during its first year, the government conducted investigations on the Lalita Niwas land scam, the fake Bhutanese refugee scam and gold smuggling scandal. However, they also add that ministers have not admitted to their shortcomings by showing these investigations as their achievement. Leaders also say the announcement of cabinet reshuffling stems from the Premier's intention to please disgruntled leaders and to save the ruling alliance. This is because the Prime Minister last year, during the formation of the government, had agreed to reshuffle the cabinet in 1 year. Political analysts opine the Premier is more concerned about sustaining the ruling alliance than about work execution. And in our Public Voice segment, we've asked people in several provinces what should be done to better manage the national flag carrier Nepal Airlines Corporation. Let's take a look at what they had to say.
कर्मचारीहरू हुनुहुन्छ भने उहाँहरूलाई चाहिँ लामो समयसम्म काम गर्ने मौका दिनु पर्यो।
चौमासिक अथवा 6 महिनामा यसको चाहिँ आम्दानी खर्च चाहिँ सार्वजनिक हुनु जरुरी छ।
कर्मचारी पनि राम्रो राखिदिएर राम्रो हिसाबले चाहिँ आफ्नो देशको लागि हो भनेर राम्रो हिसाबले गरिदिएमा राम्रो हुने थियो।
जहाँ यात्रुहरू बढी छन् त्यहाँ जहाज उडाउने
वायु सेवा नियम छ, त्यसलाई चाहिँ समय सापेक्ष बनाउनु पर्यो।
आउने जानेलाई सेवा सुविधा दिनु पर्यो।
भ्रष्टाचार सम्बन्धी काण्डहरू हामीले सुनिन्छ नि, यी विविध काण्डहरूलाई सरकारले हस्तक्षेप गरेर एकदम चुस्त दुरुस्त र पारदर्शी तरिकाले छानबिन गर्नुपर्छ।
पुरानो विमानहरू हटाएर नयाँ विमानहरू थप्नुपर्छ।
राजनीतिबाट टाढा राख्नुपर्छ। भ्रष्टाचार गर्यो भने त्यसलाई सजाय दण्ड दिएर भए पनि त्यसलाई चलाउनै पर्छ। देशको शान्तको लागि भने त्यो वायुसेना चलाउनै पर्छ।
निगमको सञ्चालक समिति चुस्त दुरुस्त हुनुपर्छ र भ्रष्टाचार चाहिँ हुनु हुँदैन।
नीति बनाएर भ्रष्टाचारको अन्त्य गर्नु पर्यो र त्यो व्यवस्थित गरेर वायु सेवा निगम चलाउनु पर्यो।
सरकारलाई यो कुरामा बढी चाप लिएर उसलाई कसरी सुधार गर्ने कर्मचारी व्यवस्थापन गरेर हुन्छ कि
प्राइभेट कम्पनीहरुसँग प्रतिस्पर्धा गर्नुपर्छ हैन, उनीहरुले दिइरहेको सेवाहरूलाई त्योसँग प्रतिस्पर्धा गरेर वायु सेवा निगमले आफूले पनि त्यो सेवा प्रवाह गर्न सक्नुपर्छ।
Economists have opined Nepal's foreign aid program has been run based on geopolitical dynamics. A report on evaluation of foreign aid to Nepal was published yesterday by a group of economists that includes Dilli Raj Khanal. The event was organized in the capital and was attended by lawmaker and economist Swarnim Wagle and former Minister for Finance Yuvraj Khatiwada. They were of the opinion that Nepal is compelled to accept foreign aid to maintain relations with regional partners. Economist Dilli Raj Khanal said the country had struggled to make full use of foreign aid it has received so far and called for policy reform. Economists have highlighted foreign aid that used to focus on poverty alleviation and infrastructure development have diverted in recent time and suggested to shift focus on climate change and its impacts. The government has failed to raise its external loans due to sluggish development progress, while it accumulated internal loans and not utilized it either. The state coffers had 152.4 billion rupees up until mid-November this year, which in mid-July was 71.98 billion rupees. According to Public Debt Management Office, the government has raised 131 billion rupees in loans since mid-July. 111 billion rupees of the amount is internally generated and 19 billion is external loans. Based on international laws, the government can apply for foreign loans after completing projects. Internal loans are up to the government to decide when and how to raise. However, it has been understood that the government has been using the internally generated loans for clearing previous loans and interests. A few amounts have been directed to the provincial and local levels in the form of grants, which are yet to be used. The government has cleared around 91 billion rupees in loan principal and interest since mid-July. This amount includes 70.56 billion rupees from internal loans and 21.19 billion rupees from foreign loans. The government should release 330 billion rupees in principal loan and interest this fiscal year. The government's internal loan has been changing in recent time. The usual 112 billion rupees internal loan has gone up to 119, of which just around 42 billion rupees have been released so far. The government's total loan has reached 2,371 billion rupees. It's time now for our segment Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion. And the question is, why has the government not spent in development works despite having money in its state coffers? Your options are A, government inability, B, problem in coordination, and C, procedural complication. The voting is on. Type NEWS, select your option A, B or C and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. Community schools have gradually begun incorporating information technology for conducting classes in recent time. Distance learning company My Second Teacher has been providing technical support to these schools with the objective of improving the teaching and learning process. More than 24 community schools have begun operating their classes by using information technology. The use of IT has encouraged students for attending classes regularly. Community school teachers have also said the new method has fueled students' motivation. The distance learning company My Second Teacher, in collaboration with the Curriculum Development Center, has prepared academic courses for these schools, including science and management courses for grade 11 and 12. The company had developed courses for grade 10 last year and is preparing courses for grade 9 to be implemented from the next academic calendar. Ministry of Education and locals expressed confidence that this method would improve the quality of education. Schools in more than 50 countries around the world use IT for teaching and learning. 15,000 students in Nepal are benefiting from IT at the moment. And it's time now for international update. The UN Security Council has passed a key resolution emphasizing the immediate acceleration of aid deliveries to the distressed civilians in the Gaza Strip. However, the resolution does not include the original call for an urgent suspension of hostilities between Israel and Hamas. It demands parties of the conflict allow, facilitate and enable the immediate, safe and unhindered delivery of humanitarian assistance at scale directly to the Palestinian civilian population throughout the Gaza Strip. The resolution also requests the Secretary General to appoint a senior humanitarian and reconstruction coordinator. The text also demands the immediate and unconditional release of hostages, as well as ensuring access to address medical needs of all hostages. It notes that the provision of fuel to Gaza should meet requisite humanitarian needs. The proposed resolution was presented by the United Arab Emirates. It garnered support from 13 council members, while the US and Russia opted to abstain from the vote. The vote followed a US veto of a Russian amendment that would have restored the call for a suspension of hostilities. Minutes after the United Nations Security Council approved a toned-down bid to boost humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip and called for urgent steps to create the conditions for a sustainable cessation of hostilities, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres addressed the media. Guterres said that the way Israel is conducting its military operation in the Gaza Strip is creating massive obstacles to the distribution of humanitarian aid inside the Palestinian enclave of 2.3 million people. He also urged Israeli authorities to lift restrictions on commercial activity immediately. Meanwhile, Israel's chief military spokesperson has called for the international community to implement a UN demand for an unconditional release of hostages still held by Hamas. Army spokesperson Daniel Hagari said in a televised statement, Israel calls on the international community and the international organizations to implement the decision. Following high-level negotiations to win over Washington, the resolution passed yesterday no longer dilutes Israel's control over all aid deliveries to 2.3 million people in Gaza. Israel monitors the limited aid deliveries to Gaza via the Rafah crossing from Egypt and the Israeli-controlled Kerem Shalom crossing. 85% of people in Gaza have been driven from their homes, and UN officials have warned of a humanitarian catastrophe. The World Food Programme says half of Gaza's population is starving and only 10% of the food required has entered Gaza since 7th of October. The Russian and Ukrainian armies have continued to exchange fire, with each claiming they hit the other's military targets. This is based on the latest battle report of the two sides. The Russian Defense Ministry on Friday reported in a briefing that during the past week, Russian forces successfully repelled multiple Ukrainian offensives in the directions of Kupiansk, Liman and Donetsk. It also said it had attacked Ukrainian military infrastructures, bunker and other targets. The General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine reported on the same day that over the previous 24 hours, the Ukrainian army continued to exchange fire with Russian army in many directions, including the left bank of the Dnieper River. The Ukrainian Air Force also struck Russian personnel and equipment positions, which the Ukrainian Air Defense Unit shot down a Russian Su-34 aircraft. It also reported that Ukrainian rocket units struck Russian target, including ammunition depot and command post. Elsewhere, Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador has said his government will reinforce measures to contain migration as he seeks to help the United States cope with record numbers of people trying to reach the U.S. border. López Obrador's comments come a day after he spoke with U.S. President Joe Biden, during which both agreed that more enforcement was needed at their shared frontier as record numbers of migrants disrupt border trade. The U.S. on Friday reopened 2 rail crossings between Texas and Mexico 5 days after their closure. The White House thanked Mexico for their help in curbing migration in the area. Migrants are heading to the U.S. to escape violence, economic distress, and negative impacts of climate change, according to United Nations. The number of people crossing the perilous Darien Gap, straddling Colombia and Central America, has topped 500,000 this year, double last year's record figures. That is all for the moment. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.